You cannot fear what you have already accepted. They had this practice called prokatalespis, a mental ritual so powerful it was considered just unfair advantage. Think about your own life right now. There's a deal you're hesitating on. There's the call you're avoiding to make or the conversation that you're pushing off. You return to who you are. You get out of your own way. Before the world told you to be afraid. And from that place, you move cleaner, you think sharper. Let's talk about the pattern of fear. All right, let's go. If you're tired, not feeling fit, tired, just not having the focus, tired, just not having a life that you desire. This is the place to be. I'm Yarusi. Today, let's talk about the pattern of fear. You know, before the modern Olympics, there was the Greeks who were athletes and they trained in a way that would just shock most people today. They didn't train their bodies. They didn't train their identity because they believe something that most people still miss. And it's not about the lack of talent that holds you back, or it's the lack of strength, or just that you're overall not confident in what you're doing. It comes down to very simply, it's your fear of failure. Ask yourself today how many times you've stopped because you didn't want to look stupid, right? You didn't want to fail. You didn't want to go up and do that thing that honestly could have been great because you were worried about what other people were thinking. And when you put down that fear, the world opens up. And the Greeks, they built this system that eliminated fear. They didn't think about your own life right now. There's a deal you're hesitating on. There's the call you're avoiding to make or the conversation that you're pushing off. And it's the move that you know you should make. It's not that you don't know what to do, right? That's where most of us miss. We know what to do. We're just finding every which way not to do it. And if you're always playing for what could be the downside, you're never truly giving yourself the adventure on life of what potentially could be the upside because you're trying to avoid this magical thing that is possibly out there, the plus, the minus. But if you're always at the minus, you can never see the plus and it keeps you stuck. And the Greeks, they understood this. They understood that you don't eliminate fear by ignoring it. You eliminate fear by facing it completely. And they had this practice called prokatalespis, a mental ritual so powerful it was considered just unfair advantage, right? Just think about that, right? You mentally prepare and it was unfair to your competitors. So the night before the competition, they didn't visualize winning. They imagined losing completely. They felt it. They saw it. They let it hit. No denial, no spin, not to break themselves down, but to remove the sting. Think about this. Each time you have an issue, each time that you have something come up that's painful, if you go and just try to sit in that pain, right? What happens? It gets more painful. But if you stop looking at the problem, start looking at the solution, start writing down what is it that's in front of you, what happens? You start finding your way through it because they believe that you cannot fear what you have already accepted. And then they did something even more powerful. They stood alone in silence and they repeated this one line: what remains after my fear is my true form, over and over until it wasn't just words, it was the identity. Now, today, psychology, it confirms this. When you fully imagine the worst case scenario and survive it internally, your brain stops triggering fear that way. When you put in your mind, what's the worst that could happen if I do this right now? It gives you this part where it's called reconsolidation. And the Greeks, they just had a simpler way of saying it. You return to who you are. You get out of your own way. Before the world told you to be afraid. And from that place, you move cleaner, you think sharper, you think in a way that puts you in a position to act and act faster because nothing owns you anymore. Think about how much of your life has been created by you trying to avoid what could happen or trying to push off the fear of what is. And it keeps you from ever going after what truly is showing your potential. And so here's what I want you to do today. Take the one thing you're avoiding. And if there's 5, ask yourself, if you did which one of those 5, which would be the most impactful to you? And pick that one. And just for 1 minute, just think about the worst outcome. Think about it. If you brought a deal today, what could be the worst outcome? You could fail miserably. The building could burn down. You could have a lapse in your insurance. You could have a project that goes well off the deep end that expunges all your money, right? And puts you in a bankruptcy, right? Think of all the things that could go down. Well, okay. Now accept it. Not forever, just long enough for you to remove the grip and then say, what remains after fear is my true form. Say it until you feel it. Say it because on the other side of failure, it isn't weakness. It's you. And that version, that's the one who shows up and win. All right. If that was helpful, go down there and leave us an honest rating review. And if we could do anything for you, Share this with the masses. Share this with someone who needs to hear this message and get out of their own way today. All right, that's what I have. I'm Yarusi. This is the Live 100 podcast. Let's do this.